Heavy metal is all about extremes, but for these 20 musicians, the extreme lifestyle went way too far, leading to public meltdowns, band breakups, and near-fatal nights. We're exposing the most shocking stories of rock and roll chaos. Believe it or not, one legend was fired from his band while he was on the way to rehab. 1. Ozzy Osbourne. Everyone knows the Prince of Darkness. As the voice of Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne basically invented heavy metal. He's a living legend, famous for his wild stage antics and his one-of-a-kind personality. But here's the kicker. For almost 40 years, Ozzy was in a deep, dark spiral. His entire life was a non-stop party, and it went to levels that are hard to even believe. What many overlooked is that his craziest stories weren't just stories. They were symptoms of a huge problem. People talk about the time he bit the head off a bat on stage. But his private life was even crazier. The thing nobody tells you is about the legendary stories, like the time he was on tour with Motley Crue and supposedly snorted a line of live ants just to one-up them. To put it mildly, his habits were completely out of control. He was known for consuming staggering amounts of powders and pills every single day. It wasn't just a party, it was a decades-long problem that saw him go too far many, many times, with his body shutting down more than once. It's a true medical miracle that he's still here. Ozzy's story is wild, but he always seemed to bounce back. The next musician on our list wasn't so lucky. He had a night so extreme that he was legally gone for 2 full minutes. 2. Nikki Sixx. Motley Crue was the poster band for 80s excess. They were the kings of the Sunset Strip, and their music was the soundtrack to a decade of wild parties. At the center of it all was bass player Nikki Sixx. He wrote the songs, and believe it or not, he was living the fast life harder than anyone. His main problem was a powerful white powder that he used constantly. In 1987, this habit led to a night that became rock and roll legend. He was at a party and went too far. So far that his heart completely stopped. Paramedics arrived and found him with no pulse. They declared him gone right there on the spot. For 2 whole minutes, Nikki Sixx was not among the living. But here's where the story gets insane. One of the paramedics, who happened to be a Motley Crue fan, decided to try one last thing. He gave him a shot of adrenaline straight to the chest, just like in the movies. It worked. Nikki's heart started beating again. He literally came back from the dead. What's even crazier, he checked himself out of the hospital, went home, and used the same stuff again. Nikki Sixx stared death in the face and came back. But our next musician's story has no happy ending. It's a dark tale that involves a girlfriend, a hotel room, and a tragic mystery. 3. Sid Vicious. Okay, so the S-Pistols were technically punk, but their I don't care attitude and aggressive sound became a huge influence on heavy metal. And Sid Vicious was their most infamous member. The thing is, he wasn't really known for his bass playing. He was known for his chaotic energy and his look. Sid and his girlfriend, Nancy Spungen, were a famous couple, but their relationship was, to put it mildly, a total disaster. They were both wrapped up in a terrible spiral, completely lost to the same hard substances. Their story became a dark legend that defined the ugly side of fame. It all came crashing down in a New York hotel room in 1978. Nancy was found gone from a stab wound, and Sid was the only one there. He was charged with ending her life, though he claimed he couldn't remember what had happened. He was in a total haze. Before he could even stand trial for what happened to Nancy, his own story ended. In 1979, just a few months later, Sid was out on bail and attended a party. That night, he had a final, life-ending accident with the very substances he couldn't escape. Sid's story is a complete tragedy from start to finish. The next musician on our list also had a very public and very dangerous moment, but this one happened right in front of a live audience. 4. Phil Anselmo Pantera absolutely dominated the 1990s with their heavy, aggressive groove metal sound. Frontman Phil Anselmo was the voice of that anger and raw power. He was an intense performer, known for his screaming vocals and commanding stage presence. But what many fans didn't know was that Phil was hiding a serious problem. He was dealing with intense back pain from years of jumping off speakers and headbanging. To cope with the pain, he started using powerful substances. This secret habit grew into a massive spiral that he kept hidden from the rest of the band. In 1996, right after a show in his home state of Texas, the worst happened. Phil collapsed backstage. His heart stopped beating. For over 4 minutes, he was gone. Paramedics worked fast and furiously, finally managing to bring him back with a shot of adrenaline. When he woke up, he famously told the press, "I'm back." This was a huge wake-up call, a moment where his private battle became terrifyingly public and almost ended his life. The event caused massive tension in the band as they finally realized how bad his problem had become. Phil's collapse was a shock to the metal world. But what about a band that seems to have it all together? The next musician is from one of the biggest bands ever, but his personal demons almost tore them apart from the inside. 5. James Hetfield, Metallica, is arguably the biggest heavy metal band on the planet, and James Hetfield is their heart and soul. He's the rhythm guitarist and the unmistakable voice behind Enter Sandman and Master of Puppets. For decades, Metallica seemed unstoppable. But behind the scenes, James was fighting a long, hard battle. He had been a heavy drinker for most of his adult life, and he also struggled with other bad habits, including powders. The band was famous for their partying in the 80s, but James's problems continued long after that. It all came to a head in 2001. The band was in the middle of trying to record an album, but the tension was so high they were about to break up. James's struggles were at their worst. He was disappearing and his health was failing. He finally made the choice to enter a rehab facility to deal with his issues. He was gone for almost a year. This entire period was captured in their documentary, Some Kind of Monster, showing the raw, painful moments of a band on the brink. James eventually got clean and came back to the band, but it was a fight for his life. James had to go to rehab to save himself. But the next guy on our list was actually fired from James's band because his own problems were just too much to handle. 6. Dave Mustaine. Here's a piece of metal history many people forget. Before Dave Mustaine was the leader of Megadeth, he was the original lead guitarist for Metallica. He was in the band in their earliest, wildest days. But here's the kicker. His personal problems were so bad that the rest of the band couldn't handle him. He was deep into a lifestyle of hard substance and out-of-control behavior. The final straw came in 1983. The band drove all the way from California to New York to record their first album. The second they got there, they woke Dave up, told him he was out of the band, and put him on a bus right back to California. He was fired on the spot. What many overlooked is that this firing fueled his entire career. He formed Megadeth to be faster and heavier than Metallica, but his struggles followed him. For decades, Dave continued to battle his demons, going to rehab over a dozen times. He famously got clean for a while, but then relapsed, showing just how hard this battle is. Dave Mustaine was fired for his habits. The next two guys on our list were in a band so famous for their lifestyle, they were nicknamed the most dangerous band in the world. Slash, Guns N' Roses exploded onto the scene in the late 80s, and right at the front was Slash, with his iconic top hat, sunglasses, and a guitar that sounded like nothing else. He was the definition of a rock star. But with that fame came a very dangerous lifestyle. Slash was deep in a spiral with hard substances, especially a powerful powder, for about 14 years. He has said in interviews that his problem got so bad he didn't even enjoy it anymore. He was just doing it to feel normal. The wow factor here is just how long he kept it up. He was functioning, touring, and writing classic songs, all while fighting this daily battle. His wake-up call finally came in 2005. His body was just giving out. He had a moment where he felt he was truly going to die. He has been clean ever since, but he's very open about the fact that he was staring death in the face for over a decade. He was one of the lucky ones who managed to pull back before it was too late. Slash managed to escape, but the original drummer for Guns N' Roses wasn't so fortunate. His story shows what happens when the party completely takes over. 8. Steven Adler. Before Guns N' Roses found their permanent drummer, they had Steven Adler. He was the original heartbeat of the band, playing on their massive debut album, Appetite for Destruction. His drumming style was a huge part of their early sound. But like everyone else in the band, he got caught up in the fast and wild lifestyle. The problem was, he couldn't control it. While other band members were struggling, Steven's spiral was, to put it mildly, the most public. His main problem was a powerful powder, and it got so bad he could barely play. The band tried to get him help. They even made him sign a contract saying he would get clean. But it didn't work. In 1990, he had a very serious accident where he went too far, and it almost ended his life. That was the last straw for the band. They had to fire him. His life continued to spiral downward after that, with more health scares and public struggles. It was a tragic fall for someone who was in the biggest band in the world. Steven Adler was fired from his band. The next musician was the voice of a whole generation, but his own tragic story ended far too soon, partly because of a battle he just couldn't win. 9. Kurt Cobain. Nirvana wasn't a metal band, but their arrival in the early 90s changed all of rock music, including metal. Kurt Cobain became the reluctant voice of Generation X. His music was full of pain and angst, and it turns out that pain was very real. Kurt struggled with intense stomach problems for years, and he started using a powerful, illegal substance to try and numb that pain. What started as a way to cope quickly turned into a full-blown, devastating problem. He was in a daily battle with this substance, even as his band was the biggest on earth. He went to rehab, but would often leave. His problem was a huge source of tension in his life and his relationships. In 1994, while on tour in Rome, he had a very serious, near-fatal accident after mixing champagne with powerful pills. Just 1 month later, in April 1994, the story came to its tragic end. Kurt was found in his home in Seattle, having made the final sad choice to end his own life. His battles with his substances and his own mind were over. Kurt's story is heartbreaking. The next musician on our list was a friend of his from the same Seattle scene, and he would face an almost identical and just as tragic fate. 10. Lane Staley. Alice in Chains was one of the biggest bands of the 90s, and Lane Staley's voice was a huge part of their dark, heavy sound. But you see, that pain in his voice was real. Lane had a long and very public battle with hard substances, the same ones that haunted Kurt Cobain. What many overlooked is just how tragic his story became. As the years went on, his problem got worse and worse. It caused him to pull away from his band, his friends, and the world. He stopped performing. To put it mildly, he became a recluse, living in his apartment in Seattle. He rarely spoke to anyone, and his health was failing fast. In 2002, the sad story came to its final end. He was found in his home, having passed away from a terrible accident with those same substances. What's truly heartbreaking is that he had been gone for about 2 weeks before anyone found him. He was only 34 years old. It was a slow, sad fade-out for one of rock's most powerful voices. Lane's story is one of the saddest in music. The next musician on our list also fronted a massive 90s band and had a similar struggle. But his final, tragic moment happened while he was on tour. 11. Scott Weiland. Scott Weiland was the ultimate rock star frontman. As the singer for Stone Temple Pilots, he had a unique voice and a wild, slithering stage presence. He was captivating to watch. But from the very beginning of his fame, he had a massive public battle with hard substances. His struggles were in the news all the time, leading to tour cancellations and run-ins with the law. He went to rehab multiple times. He would get clean, put out amazing music with STP or his other band, Velvet Revolver, and then fall back into the same dark spiral. It was a cycle that repeated for decades. In 2015, the cycle finally came to a tragic end. Scott was on tour with his solo band, the Wildabouts. He was found on his tour bus having passed away from a fatal mix of powerful substances. He was 48. It was a sad, but for many, not surprising end for a singer who seemed to be in a constant fight for his life. Scott Weiland's long battle ended in tragedy. The next two stories are just as heartbreaking, involving two close friends who were also voices of a generation. 12. Chris Cornell. Chris Cornell had one of the most powerful and beautiful voices in rock history. From his early days in Soundgarden to his time with Audioslave, he was a true icon. He had been open about his past struggles with bad habits, especially with pills and alcohol, but many believed he had overcome them. He seemed to be in a great place, back with a reunited Soundgarden and playing amazing shows. Then the unthinkable happened in 2017. After a concert in Detroit, Chris was found in his hotel room. He had made the tragic choice to end his own life. The shock was massive, and it left the music world stunned. His family later suggested that prescription substances, which he was taking for anxiety and pain, may have altered his state of mind and contributed to his final, sad decision. It was a devastating loss that left a huge hole in the music world, a reminder that even the strongest-seeming people can be fighting silent battles. The loss of Chris Cornell was a shock. Just a few months later, the music world was hit with another, almost identical tragedy, involving one of his closest friends. 13. Chester Bennington. Chester Bennington was the voice of a generation for millions of Linkin Park fans. His lyrics often talked about inner pain, frustration, and feeling lost. And it turns out he was living that reality every day. Chester had a long history of battling his demons, including serious issues with alcohol and other substances. He was very, very close friends with Chris Cornell, and Chris's passing in May 2017 hit him incredibly hard. Just 2 months later, on what would have been Chris Cornell's birthday, the world got more terrible news. Chester was found in his home in California, having made the same tragic choice to end his life. It was a heartbreaking echo, another powerful voice silenced by a deep inner pain that the world didn't always see. His passing, so soon after Chris's, shined a bright light on the serious mental health challenges that many musicians face behind the curtain of fame. Chester's story is a reminder of the deep pain some artists carry. The next musician is also a modern metal icon, but his story has a more hopeful turn, starting from a moment of pure terror. 14. Corey Taylor. Corey Taylor is one of the biggest names in modern metal. He's the masked, screaming frontman for Slipknot and the powerful melodic singer for Stone Sour. He's known for his raw energy and honesty. But for a long time, that energy was fueled by a serious problem with alcohol. He was a big-time partier, and it started to take over his life. His rock-bottom moment came in 2010. He was at a party and, to put it mildly, went way too far. He ended up blacking out. When he came to, his friends were standing over him, looking terrified. They told him they had to physically stop him from jumping off a hotel balcony. He had no memory of it. That moment scared him so badly that he knew he had to change. He quit drinking right then and has been sober ever since. He's now very open about his struggles, hoping to help other people who are on the same dark path he almost didn't escape. Corey Taylor had a scary wake-up call. The next musician, a legendary drummer, also got clean, but only after decades of damage. 15. Mike Portnoy. For fans of progressive metal, Mike Portnoy is a drum god. He was the co-founder of the band Dream Theater, known for their incredibly complex songs and amazing musicianship. For decades, Mike was not only the drummer, but a major creative force in the band. But he was also hiding a big problem. For most of his career, he was in a deep spiral with alcohol and other substances. He said that for years he never played a show or wrote a song while he was sober. He was living a double life. This went on for decades, but he finally hit a wall in 2000. He realized his habits were going to cost him his family, his band, and his life. He made the choice to get clean and managed to turn his life around. He has been sober for over 20 years now, but it's a wow factor to think that all those classic, complex drum parts were played by someone who was in a constant battle with his personal demons. Mike Portnoy found sobriety. The next musician, a modern rock singer, also found his way out, but not before his habits almost ended his band. 16. Brent Smith. Shinedown is one of the biggest rock bands of the last 20 years, thanks to hits like Second Chance and Sound of Madness. Their frontman, Brent Smith, has a huge, powerful voice. But for a long time, he was also carrying a lot of extra weight, over 200 pounds of it, and battling a serious problem with alcohol and pills. His bandmates had finally had enough. Their manager sat him down and gave him an ultimatum. He had to get clean and get healthy, or the band was over. They were going to fire him from his own band. This was the rock bottom he needed. Brent quit the substances and started focusing on his health. He got into exercise and healthy eating and completely transformed his body, losing a massive amount of weight. He saved his career and, more importantly, his life. He's now a totally different person, full of energy and positive messages. Brent Smith had to be threatened by his band. The next musician's problem became so public, it caused one of the most infamous meltdowns in TV history. 17. CC DeVille. Poison was another one of those huge 80s bands known for their party anthems and glam look. CC DeVille was their flashy, energetic lead guitarist. And just like Motley Crue, the party lifestyle was a huge part of their image. But for CC, it stopped being a party and became a serious problem, especially with powders. This all came to a head in a very public and embarrassing way. In 1991, Poison was set to perform at the MTV Video Music Awards, a huge live TV event. Just before they went on, CC was, to put it mildly, not in good shape. When the music started, he began playing a completely different song than the rest of the band. It was a total train wreck. The band was furious, and a huge fight broke out backstage right after. That night was the end for him. He was fired from Poison because his problem had finally made it impossible to work. CC's meltdown was a public disaster. The next musician on our list isn't metal, but his decades-long struggle became a symbol of the 60s and 70s rock lifestyle. 18. Jerry Garcia. The Grateful Dead might not be heavy metal, but their cultural impact is arguably just as massive, and their hard-partying lifestyle was truly legendary. At the center of this musical phenomenon was Jerry Garcia. He was their leader, their lead guitarist, and a beloved counterculture icon. To the millions of Deadheads who followed the band from city to city, Garcia was more than a musician. He was a kind of spiritual guide. But behind this benevolent, bearded image, Jerry was fighting a private war. For almost 30 years, from the very height of the 1960s psychedelic movement to his final days, Jerry had a very serious, life-consuming battle with hard substances, especially a powerful and destructive powder. His trouble wasn't a secret. He was first arrested for possession back in 1970, but as the band's fame exploded, so did the problem. The Grateful Dead became a relentless, non-stop touring machine. It was a multi-million-dollar operation that employed hundreds of people, and it all rested on Jerry's shoulders. What many overlooked or chose to ignore is that his addiction was a constant shadow over this entire empire. The pressure was immense. Garcia himself said he wasn't built to be a leader, but he was treated as one by everyone around him. He used substances to cope with the relentless demands of touring, the pressure of writing, and the godlike expectations of his fans. He would try to get clean. The band would stage interventions, and he would make promises. But the pressure of being the engine for such a massive, always moving machine always pulled him back in. His health problems became a terrifying drumbeat in the band's later years. His weight fluctuated, and his substance use, a mix of heroin and cocaine, was taking a visible toll. The first major wake-up call came in 1986. Garcia, a heavy smoker and diabetic, collapsed and went into a diabetic coma. He was in the hospital for days, and when he woke up, the damage was severe. He had to relearn basic motor skills, including how to play the guitar. It was a huge public scare, and for a while, he got clean. The band got their leader back, but the machine had to keep moving. The tours had to be booked, and the pressure returned. He still couldn't stop for good. His addiction was a revolving door. By the early 1990s, his bandmates could see he was fading. He looked tired, his playing was sometimes sloppy, and the light in his eyes was gone. In August 1995, after another intervention from his band and family, he checked into a residential rehab center in California, trying once again to get his life back. This time, it seemed different. He was reportedly optimistic, but the damage was already done. Sadly, just a few days into his treatment, on August 9, 1995, a staff member found him. He had passed away in his sleep from a heart attack. He was only 53 years old. His body, weakened by years of diabetes and constant substance abuse, had finally given out. Jerry Garcia's battle lasted his whole life, a private tragedy played out on a public stage. The next musician from another legendary English band had his life cut short at the very beginning of his fame. 19. Brian Jones. The Rolling Stones are rock and roll royalty, the bad boys who took over the world. But when you think of the Stones, you think of the Glimmer Twins, the strutting frontman Mick Jagger, and the immortal guitarist Keith Richards. But before they became the main focus, the band's founder, its original leader, and its musical visionary was Brian Jones. Back in the early 60s, it was Brian who formed the band. It was Brian who named the band. And it was Brian who, with his blonde hair and flamboyant style, was the original face of the group. He was a true musical genius, a talented multi-instrumentalist who could pick up almost any instrument and make it sing. He's the one who added the sitar to Paint It Black and the marimba to Under My Thumb. He gave the early Stones their unique, experimental sound. But as the band got more famous, a power shift happened. Jagger and Richards formed a tight songwriting partnership, and they began churning out hit after hit. Brian, who wasn't a strong songwriter, got pushed to the side. He felt his creation, his band, slipping away from him. At the same time, he fell deep into the 1960s party scene. He fully embraced the intimate acts, substances, and rock and roll lifestyle, and his life became a chaotic blur of pills, alcohol, and perception-altering substances. His habits quickly made him unreliable and erratic. He would miss recording sessions. When he did show up, he was often too intoxicated to even play his instrument. The other band members would just turn his amplifier down and play over him. He was also getting into serious trouble with the law. He was arrested multiple times for drug possession. This wasn't just bad press, it was a major business problem. His legal troubles meant he was being denied a visa to tour the United States, which was a massive financial blow to the band. He was becoming a liability they couldn't afford. In June of 1969, the rest of the band had to make a tough choice. Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and Charlie Watts drove out to Jones's country home, Cotchford Farm, to fire him. They told him he was out of the band he had started. Just 1 month later, the tragedy was complete. On the night of July 2, 1969, Brian Jones was found motionless at the bottom of his swimming pool. He was only 27 years old, becoming one of the first and most famous members of the infamous 27 Club. The official coroner's report called it death by misadventure, an accidental drowning while under the influence of alcohol and drugs. But for decades, rumors have swirled that there was more to the story, with some wild theories suggesting he was murdered. Brian Jones's story is a tragic what if. He was the founder who was cast aside, a musical genius who drowned in his own excess. We end with another story from that same era, a musician whose genius was completely lost to a lifestyle that took his mind to a place it could never come back from. 20. Syd Barrett. We end with a story that's less of a sudden tragedy and more of a slow, haunting mystery. This is the story of a founding father of a different kind of heavy sound: psychedelic rock. His name was Syd Barrett, and he was the original leader and creative mastermind of Pink Floyd. In the mid-1960s, Syd Barrett was the band's brilliant, whimsical, and charismatic frontman. He wrote their early hit singles like Arnold Lane and See Emily Play, and he was the primary driving force behind their groundbreaking debut album, The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. He was a creative genius, a pioneer of sound, and everyone thought he was the future of music. But this was the height of the 1960s in London, and new, powerful substances were everywhere. The drug of choice for the psychedelic scene was LSD. Syd became famous for experimenting heavily with things that change your perception. And the thing nobody tells you is just how fast it all went wrong. Syd wasn't just experimenting. He was consuming these substances in massive daily quantities. His bandmates had to watch as their friend and leader's mind just drifted away. The decline was terrifyingly quick. At first, it was just quirky behavior, but soon he became a completely different person. The diamond in his eyes was replaced with a blank, terrifying stare. The stories from this period are heartbreaking. There were gigs where Syd would stand on stage, guitar hanging around his neck, not playing a single note, just staring into space, completely catatonic. Other times, he would play the same note or the same chord over and over for the entire set, actively trying to sabotage the performance. One famous story tells of him bringing a new song to rehearsal called Have You Got It Yet? Every time the band learned the arrangement, Syd would change it. They'd try again, and he'd change it again, making it impossible to learn. He was either pulling a complex prank or, more likely, his mind was actively fracturing. Fame gave them noise, but substances took everything else. The 25 metal stars ruined by substances weren't just heavy metal icons, they were ticking time bombs with guitars. The stage lit them up, but the shadows always followed. Brace yourself, some of the falls you're about to witness were so brutal, the spotlight never came back on. 1. Phil Anselmo. Phil Anselmo screamed like a man on fire. Fronting Pantera, he looked unstoppable. Tattoos, rage, sweat. He was the kind of frontman who didn't perform. He exploded. But backstage, the pain never stopped. Back injuries, pills, heroin, silence. He started using it to numb the hurt. Then he couldn't stop. The silence grew louder than the amps. His addiction grew louder than his voice. He nodded off in interviews, missed rehearsals, fought with his bandmates. Pantera wasn't just breaking up over music, it was breaking over Phil. And deep down, he knew it. He tried to mask it with bravado, but masks crack under pressure. Behind the snarls and bravado was someone falling apart. He overdosed in 1996. Technically died. They brought him back, but something in him stayed gone. He kept performing, starting bands like Down and Superjoint Ritual, but the fire flickered. Every interview turned into an apology. Every show carried the weight of regret. Phil didn't just hurt himself. He helped bury one of metal's greatest bands. And even today, the ghost of that loss follows him on stage. And every scream he lets out carries a bit of that guilt, like a shadow stitched into his voice. 2. Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy didn't just flirt with chaos. He married it, moved in with it, and threw wild parties in its honor. The Prince of Darkness built an empire on madness, but behind the legend was a man falling apart in slow motion. Booze, pills, stimulants. More booze. Ozzy wasn't just using, he was surviving. He wasn't chasing a high. He was drowning the silence. He got kicked out of Black Sabbath not because he lost his voice, but because he lost control. His solo career exploded, but so did his demons. He bit the head off a bat on stage. He urinated on the Alamo. He slurred through interviews and stumbled through shows. Fans laughed, but his family didn't. Behind the scenes, things were crumbling. Sharon Osbourne became his anchor. Rehab became routine. The reality show made the chaos a spectacle, but the man behind the music, he was breaking down. Years of trauma melted his memory, clouded his voice, and carved deep lines in his soul. Ozzy's still here, but so is the damage, and it never really left. His body lived. His mind barely kept up. And every time he sings now, it's a small miracle, one hard-won breath at a time. 3. Vince Neil. Vince Neil lived like rules were background noise. As the voice of Motley Crue, he didn't just sing about chaos, he lived it with both fists swinging. The booze wasn't just part of the show, it was the fuel, the mask, the escape. You could hear it in his slurred interviews, see it in his stumbles, feel it in the way his voice faded over the years. Vince wasn't partying, he was bleeding in slow motion. Then came 1984, behind the wheel, drunk. He crashed into another car, took the life of his friend Razzle from Hanoi Rocks, just like that. Gone. Vince went to jail, but barely. Just a few weeks. A fine. A press conference. Then the lights came back on, and the music kept playing. But something inside Vince shattered that night, and it never came back together. He kept drinking, kept spiraling. The voice that once electrified arenas became rough, tired, strained. He missed shows, slurred lyrics, looked lost on stage. The band kept moving. Vince kept crumbling. Glam faded. Pain didn't. That night on Sunset Boulevard still haunts him. Not in dreams. In silence. In stares. In the empty spaces between songs. Vince Neil didn't just survive a crash. He's been living inside it ever since. 4. Scott Weiland. Scott Weiland didn't belong in just one band. He was too big, too strange, too broken for that. Stone Temple Pilots gave him a stage. Velvet Revolver gave him a second wind. Other projects tried to capture the spark, but the fire kept slipping through their fingers. Fans loved him. His voice was velvet dipped in gasoline. But heroin loved him more. He wasn't just addicted, he was trapped. Rehab was a revolving door. 1 month clean, 2 months gone. Fired, rehired, fired again. His voice stayed gold, but his eyes dulled. There was something behind them that never came back. Like the real Scott had wandered off and left a shell to keep singing. He died on a cold tour bus in 2015. Alone. Frozen. A syringe nearby, a whisper of a man who used to roar. There was no candlelight vigil, no parade of tributes, just another name in a long line of warnings ignored. The industry mourned him in tweets, then moved on. Scott didn't just lose the fight, he fought. A loop of recovery and relapse until there was nothing left to loot. His voice still plays on the radio, but the man? He's a ghost trapped in the static. 5. Lane Staley. Lane Staley didn't just sing pain, he became it. The voice of Alice in Chains wasn't just dark, it was soaked in despair. His vocals sounded like someone clawing their way out of a coffin. He didn't hide the struggle, he turned it into music. made you feel every needle, every tear, every moment he wished he wasn't breathing. Lane vanished before he died. The band slowed down. He slipped into an apartment and barely came out. His weight dropped. His skin grayed. Friends begged him to let them in. He didn't answer. The man who once held stadiums in silence couldn't hold himself together. In 2002, they found him, dead, weeks gone, rotting into the floor, a syringe nearby. The news broke like an afterthought. He had already disappeared long before that headline. The saddest part? Nobody was surprised. Everyone had been waiting for this obituary. Lane didn't scream when he left. He faded. Quiet. Lonely. A man who made pain sound beautiful, but couldn't escape his own. He didn't die a rock star. He died as a warning, one we still haven't learned from, one that echoes every time a haunted voice plays through worn-out speakers. 6. Jeff Hanneman. Jeff Hanneman didn't die the way people expect metal legends to go. There was no overdose on a tour bus, no car crashes, no loud bang, just a body quietly failing. But behind that quiet end was a slow-motion spiral that had been building for years. His liver failed, and alcohol was the reason. Jeff was the soul of Slayer. His riffs weren't just fast. They were surgical, cold, sharp, and he carried that same intensity off stage, sometimes in dangerous ways. Drinking was part of the image, part of the culture. But with Jeff, it wasn't a party. It was a slow escape. It started with a spider bite, a freak thing. He got necrotizing fasciitis. His flesh started to rot. He had to stop playing. Everyone thought he'd be back, but while his body healed, his spirit didn't. He drank. Alone, quietly. He stopped showing up to things. The band moved on without him, not by choice, but by necessity. By the time he died in 2013, most people hadn't seen him in years. His liver gave out, gone in a flash. But it wasn't sudden. It was years in the making, and Slayer was never the same. The speed, the fury, the chaos, none of it could replace Jeff's dark calm. He was the thunder beneath the storm. 7. Joey Jordison. Joey Jordison was Slipknot's heartbeat. Fast, feral, unrelenting. He didn't just play drums, he unleashed them. He looked like a demon in a mask, but he played like a machine possessed. On stage, he was a blur of limbs. Off stage, he was quietly breaking. For years, no one saw it. He smiled in interviews. He talked about music, his bands, his dreams. But inside, things were falling apart. In 2013, Slipknot kicked him out. No warning, no clear reason. Fans were shocked. Joey was crushed. He said they turned their backs on him when he needed them most. Later, he revealed the truth. He had a neurological disease, transverse myelitis. It paralyzed his legs. He couldn't play, couldn't walk. And in that silence, old demons came knocking. Pills, depression, isolation. He tried to fight, formed new bands, wrote new music. But the light in him had dimmed. In 2021, Joey died. Alone. No cause made public. Just a silent goodbye. The man who once sat on a rotating drum kit, upside down, pounding the world into submission, slipped into the dark. No spotlight, no final solo, just silence. And for Slipknot fans, it was like losing gravity itself. 8. Peter Steele. Peter Steele was a gothic metal's giant. 6'8", pale as marble, with a voice so deep it rumbled. He looked like Dracula and sang like a funeral hymn. Type O Negative wasn't just a band. I was in a good mood, a shadow, and Peter was its architect. But shadows don't just hide things. Sometimes they swallow them. Peter drank, a lot. He joked about death, posed in coffins, talked about the end like it was an old friend. But behind that theatrical doom was a man losing himself. Depression clung to him like fog. Addiction followed. He disappeared for stretches, vanished from stages, came back thinner, sadder. In 2005, he was gone for over a year. Rumors swirled: rehab, jail, death. He returned, quieter and changed. But the damage had roots. In 2010, he died of heart failure, just 48. Too young, but also somehow already ancient. Peter didn't burn out. He slowly faded, the way a candle flickers before the dark. Fans still speak his name with reverence. His voice still echoes in headphones. But the man who made sorrow beautiful couldn't escape his own, and his final breath felt like a church bell, low, haunting, and final. 9. Steven Adler. Steven Adler was Guns N' Roses before the destruction set in. His drumming gave the band its wild groove. It's a dangerous swing. He played like someone on the edge. Turns out he was. Steven's addiction wasn't a phase, it was a full-time job. He started with the party substances, coke, weed, booze, but the fun didn't last. Heroin grabbed him hard. It ruined his timing, made him miss rehearsals. The band noticed. They gave him warnings, chances. He blew them. In 1990, they fired him. The band he helped build kicked him out, but even that didn't wake him up. He got worse, more relapses, more hospital visits. At one point, he had a stroke from an overdose, lost the ability to speak clearly, had to relearn basic skills. Reality shows tried to help him recover. Dr. Drew, sobriety boot camps, tearful confessions. But the shadow never really lifted. Steven's story is one of almost everything. Almost sober, almost healthy, almost back, but never quite. He's still alive, still trying, but he lost more than time. He lost his place in history. While the rest of Guns N' Roses became legends, Steven became a cautionary tale, a beat that fell behind and never quite caught up. 10. Johnny Lane. Johnny Lane looked like every glam metal dream came true. Blonde hair, big smile, the voice behind Cherry Pie. His songs were candy-coated hits, sugar on top of thunder. But behind the smile and makeup was a man unraveling. Alcohol didn't just ruin Johnny's career. It devoured it piece by piece, verse by verse. At the height of Warrant's fame, he was everywhere: MTV, radio, posters on teenage walls. But the attention felt fake, and the pressure carved into him. He drank to cope, then to forget, then just to function. The glass became a daily instrument, more familiar than his microphone. He started missing flights, slurring lyrics, collapsing backstage. Bandmates tried to save him. Fans looked away. The decline was quiet but constant. His solo efforts carried sparks of brilliance, but the bottle kept stealing the pen before he could finish the song. In 2011, they found him in a hotel room, surrounded by vodka bottles, alone. A note in his pocket. A career that once soared had landed in silence. He was 47. Johnny wasn't a one-hit wonder. He was a bright, broken poet trapped in a plastic fantasy. When the music faded, the pain stayed. His story plays like a chorus you can't get out of your head. Sweet, sad, and too short. 11. Chris Cornell. Chris Cornell sang like a man trying to claw his way out of himself. That voice, rich, anguished, unearthly, was a paradox. It carried rage and grace in equal measure. He fronted Soundgarden, Audioslave, and Temple of the Dog. Every word he sang sounded like it might be his last. And maybe, deep down, he hoped it would be. From the start, addiction followed him like a shadow. Prescription pills, alcohol, depression. He had periods of sobriety, stretches of hope. He talked about them, wrote about them, but something dark always hovered at the edge. No amount of fame could quiet it. In 2017, after a show in Detroit, he was found dead, a self-inflicted death. Meds in his system, some prescribed, some not. None enough to silence the weight he carried. The world was stunned, but not surprised. Because Chris sang about endings before they came. He didn't leave a note. He left a discography full of warnings, songs that screamed, whispered, wept. Chris didn't just perform darkness, he lived in it. And when the curtain fell, there was no encore, just silence where his voice should be. He didn't go quietly. His songs still ring like echoes in a canyon, deep, lonely, and unforgettable. 12. Tommy Lee. Tommy Lee lived louder than his drums. Motley Crue's heartbeat. A whirlwind of tattoos, scandals, and destruction in motion. On stage, he was the circus. Off stage, the wreckage. He wasn't just part of the party, he was the party. But behind the noise was a man quietly unraveling. Fame poured everything into his lap. Substances almost buried him beneath it. His life played out like a tabloid fever dream. Mansion fights, jail time, drunken interviews, rage-fueled arrests, public meltdowns. Marriage to Pamela Anderson became a reality show war zone. Their home was a camera set. Their arguments, public property. Tommy's face was everywhere, but his mind was lost in the fog. He tried to quit drinking, then started again. He tried rehab. Then I left. It was a loop, loud, messy, predictable. The band used it. The media devoured it. Fans called it rock and roll, but it was just a man spinning. Today, he plays the role of survivor, the one who made it through. He still tours, still posts, still smiles. But under the laughter are scars inked deep, not just on his skin, but in the story. Every drumbeat sounds like someone trying to outrun their own echo, and Tommy knows that rhythm better than anyone. 13. Steven Tyler. Steven Tyler didn't walk into a room, he exploded into it. The voice of Aerosmith, the peacock king of rock. He danced, screamed, and seduced his way into the spotlight, living louder than the amplifiers behind him. But every high note had a price, and every costume hid a collapse. Substances were his co-pilot, stimulants, heroin, pills, whiskey. The Toxic Twins, Tyler and Joe Perry, didn't just dabble, they devoured. Their band was fueled by hits and near-death experiences. Steven passed out mid-flight, slurred through interviews, lost nights, lost friends, lost pieces of himself. Aerosmith nearly died with him. Fights erupted. Bandmates walked. Tours stalled. Then came rehab, then relapse, then rehab again. It was a cycle written in smoke. He chased peace, but couldn't catch it. Success didn't quiet the noise inside. 14. Ace Frehley. Ace Frehley made the Spacemen fly. Kiss wouldn't have launched without him. His solos were like rockets, sharp, loud, untamed. He was the wild card, the mystery, the guy with stars on his face and explosions in his guitar. But when the lights went off, Ace didn't float in space. He crashed. Substances, booze, days lost in hazy loops. He missed rehearsals, showed up wasted, forgot chords, forgot people. His dream turned into a fuzzy, stumbling nightmare. The stardust settled into broken promises. Fame handed him a firework. He let it explode in his hands. He left Kiss, came back, left again. Fans crossed fingers, hoped he'd stay clean. But sobriety was a flickering light. Rehab came in cycles. Excuses, too. His playing dulled. The sharp edges of his talent softened under the weight of chemical fog. He admits it now. Says the party took the wheel, that he just held on. His solo work? Moments of brilliance drowned in relapse. Even his comeback stories come with Did you know over 100,000 musicians have died from substances and alcohol abuse in the last 50 years? From backstage fistfights and public meltdowns to bodies found weeks after their final breath. Here are 20 heavy metal stars destroyed by substances. 1. Dave Navarro, Jane's Addiction. Dave Navarro looked like a star. He played guitar like it was part of him, and crowds loved every second. But what they didn't see was the dark storm growing inside him. In the early 1990s, when Jane's Addiction was gaining attention, Navarro was slipping into something much worse than fame could fix. He didn't hide it well, and the substances started to speak louder than his music. By 1991, things were out of control. During the first Lollapalooza tour, things went from bad to worse. Before going on stage in Chandler, Arizona, Navarro used hard substances. His mind was foggy, and his body couldn't keep up. What followed wasn't just a messy show. He fought with his bandmate Perry Farrell on stage. It wasn't cool. It wasn't wild rock and roll. It was painful to watch. A man falling apart in front of a cheering crowd. This wasn't just one bad night. It was a loud signal that the substances were winning. Navarro didn't need another guitar solo. He needed help. But help doesn't always come fast in the music world. There's pressure to smile, to play, to tour, even when your life is falling into pieces. Navarro's story is not just about substances. It's about being alone in a crowd, about being sick while everyone claps. He kept falling, and the music got quieter. He might have had fame, but the addiction had control. The stage lights were bright, but they didn't shine on the pain. His fall was hard to watch, but even harder to stop. 2. John Bonham, Led Zeppelin. John Bonham's drums shook the stage. Every beat hit like thunder, and fans around the world felt his power. But behind that power was a man who couldn't say no to alcohol. Off stage, Bonham drank like there was no tomorrow. He wasn't sipping casually. He was drinking like it was his job. And that job became deadly. People around him saw it. Some said something. Others stayed quiet. Maybe they were scared. Maybe they thought he'd stop. But he didn't. And the end came fast. In 1980, just 32 years old, Bonham drank 40 shots of vodka. That's not a party. That's a warning scream. He passed out, and by morning, he was gone. He didn't die in a car crash or from a disease. He died in his sleep, choking on what he drank. It was sudden, but it had been coming for years. People said he was the best drummer of all time. But even the best can fall if no one pulls them back. His death ended more than his life. It ended Led Zeppelin. The band couldn't keep going without him. His drinking didn't just hurt him. It broke something bigger. It stole a future full of music, tours, and memories. Bonham's story isn't about wild nights. It's about how quickly things can end. One more drink, one more night, and then it's over. His hands made music that shook the world, but the bottle was stronger. The warning signs were everywhere, but still, it was too late. 3. Steve Clark, Def Leppard. Steve Clark had the look, the talent, and the crowd's love. As the lead guitarist of Def Leppard, he helped build one of the biggest rock bands of the 1980s. But behind the lights and awards, Clark was crumbling. He wasn't just having a few drinks, he was drowning in alcohol and prescription substances. Every day felt heavier. Every show was harder to get through. The band saw it. The fans didn't. The substances were slowly erasing the man they once knew. Clark had a problem that no one could fix with applause. He mixed pills with liquor, creating a silent bomb inside him. His body held on for a while, but not forever. On January 8, 1991, Steve Clark's time ran out. He was found in his apartment. No big goodbye, no last show, just silence. His blood alcohol level was 30, a dangerous number even for a heavy drinker. Add in morphine, codeine, and Valium, and the result was death. He was only 30. People often say he was too young, too talented, too important. But the truth is, he was too lost. The help came too late or didn't come at all. Fame doesn't protect you. Fans can't pull you back. Clark was praised for his guitar skills, but what he needed was real help, not more tours. His death was not sudden. It was a slow, painful slide, and no one stopped it. Now his music lives on, but his life ended far too soon. 4. Lane Staley, Alice in Chains. Lane Staley sang like pain had a voice. You could feel every word. But what fans didn't know was that he wasn't acting. He was hurting for real. He didn't party to have fun. He used substances to numb a deep sadness that never went away. As his band Alice in Chains grew bigger, Staley got smaller. His weight dropped, his voice cracked, his eyes lost their light, and then he disappeared from the world. Lane stopped touring. He stopped showing up. He locked himself away in his home, hiding from fans, friends, and even life itself. For years, people guessed how bad it had gotten, but no one really knew. On April 5, 2002, Lane died alone in his apartment. The cause was an overdose, a deadly shot. He was 34 years old, but here's the painful part. No one found him for 2 whole weeks. He was that alone, that forgotten. This wasn't a wild rock and roll crash. This was a slow, heartbreaking fall. Staley wasn't just a voice on a track. He was a person lost in darkness. His songs about pain weren't stories. They were real. His death didn't shock everyone because many saw it coming. But seeing and helping are 2 different things. The sadness of Lane's life is how many times he was left alone, how many chances were missed, how many calls were ignored. His voice was strong, but his cries were silent. 5. Robin Crosby, Rat. Robin Crosby made hits that defined glam metal. He co-wrote Round and Round, a song everyone knows. But behind the music was a man fighting a losing war. A particular substance had wrapped its chains around him, and it never let go. He didn't just use now and then. He was hooked deep, and each day he slipped further. Crosby's fame couldn't save him. The fans couldn't see the pain in his eyes. He looked fine from far away, but up close, he was fading. As Rat got bigger, Crosby got weaker. He missed shows. He lost weight. The spark he had was dim. The band moved on, but he stayed stuck. In 2001, he told the world he was HIV positive. He said it was from years of substance use. His body had been through too much. His life was already hanging by a thread. On June 6, 2002, Robin Crosby died of an overdose. He was only 42. His death wasn't just sad, it was expected. That's what makes it worse. People knew he was sick. People knew he was using, but nothing changed. Nothing stopped. And that's the real heartbreak. Crosby's story is more than a rock star's fall. It's a sign of what happens when everyone watches, but no one acts. He gave music to the world, but in the end, he died in silence. He left behind songs, but no happy ending. 6. Dave Brockie, GWAR. Dave Brockie was wild on stage, wearing crazy outfits and pretending to be the wild monster Odorous Urungus. He made fans cheer like no tomorrow. GWAR wasn't just a band. It was a show full of fake blood, wild act, and crazy noise. But while people laughed and screamed at the wild scenes, no one saw what was really going on behind all that makeup. Brockie was falling apart on the inside. He wasn't just pretending to live crazy, he was really doing it. People close to him said he used substances for years. He joked about it, but it wasn't funny. One night in March 2014, Brockie was found dead. The cause? An overdose. He was 50 years old. Fans were shocked, but the signs were always there. His friends, his fans, everyone who looked up to him, they missed the truth. The music world had seen this happen too many times. The heavy metal scene has always been loud, rough, and wild, but sometimes that wild life comes with a dark price. Brockie's life was full of laughs and screams, but his end was quiet and sad. He played a character that seemed too big to break. But substances don't care who you are. Whether you're on stage or alone in a room, they pull you under. And when they do, there's often no way back. 7. Brian Head Welch, Korn. Brian Welch had it all. Big band, huge crowds, money, fame, and music that fans loved. But even with everything, something dark was growing inside. Substances. By 2003, he was deep into meth. Not just once or twice. He needed it day and night. His body changed. His thoughts changed. And even his love for his daughter was drowning in the addiction. His band Korn was famous, but Welch was fading. He would play music, then run off to get high. The substance made him feel strong, but it also made him weak. He knew he couldn't keep going. He was losing everything: his health, his family, his mind. In 2005, he made a big decision. He quit the band, walked away. Some thought he was crazy, but he knew staying meant losing everything. Welch tried to find something better. He looked for faith, for peace, for anything that didn't come from a needle or pipe. His road to recovery was hard. Some days he felt strong, other days he nearly gave up. But he kept going. He wanted to be a father again. He wanted to feel alive without being high. Slowly, things got better. In 2013, he came back to Korn, but this time, he was clean. He was different. He played the same songs, but with new meaning. His return was big, but his story was even bigger. It showed that falling isn't the end. You can fight back. Still, not everyone gets that chance. 8. Paul Di'Anno, Iron Maiden. Paul Di'Anno had a voice that hit like a hammer, rough, loud, and perfect for heavy metal. He helped Iron Maiden rise fast. Fans went wild over the band's early records, and Paul was the face of it all. But behind the powerful singing was a man who couldn't stay clean. Substances followed him on tour. The more famous he got, the worse it became. By 1981, it all came crashing down. His substance use was hurting shows. He missed performances. He messed up on stage. His bandmates were frustrated. They tried to help, but they had to make a choice. Paul had to go. They kicked him out. It was painful, but they couldn't wait for him to fix himself. Iron Maiden moved on. Paul didn't. He tried to start over. New bands, new chances. But it was never the same. The spotlight was gone, and his problems only grew. He got into legal trouble. He got sick. Lymphoedema made his legs swell. Infections nearly ended him. Still, he performed when he could. Fans still showed up, but they saw a different man. Not the wild metal star, but someone trying to hold on. In 2024, he died at 66. His life had turned into a long fight, not just with his body, but with his choices. Substances didn't just end his time in Iron Maiden, they chased him for decades. 9. Al Jurgensen, Ministry. Al Jurgensen didn't just use substances, he survived them over and over. He started Ministry with big ideas and strange sounds. Then came the harder music and then the harder substances. His body paid the price. He overdosed many times. His heart stopped 3 different times. Each time he came back. But each time he lost a little more. His bones broke. His health dropped. Part of his toe had to be cut off. He looked sick, weak, older than his years. Still, he kept touring. He said music was the only thing that helped him fight the pain. But it wasn't just pain from his body. It was pain from inside. Years of substances left scars you couldn't see. Somehow, Al made it out. He said he gave up the worst substances. Now, he only uses plants and mushrooms. It may not be perfect, but it's better than before. He says he feels clearer. He laughs about the past, but there's sadness in the stories. He survived, but it cost him. Being alive doesn't always mean being okay. Jurgensen is still here, but look closer. The road he took was full of close calls and near deaths. How many people would survive what he did? Very few, maybe none. 10. Shifty Shell Shock, Crazy Town. Seth Binzer was a star. His song Butterfly was everywhere. Kids sang it, radio played it non-stop. But fame came fast, and so did the substances. He was known as Shifty Shell Shock, but his life was not just about music. It was about trying to stay clean and failing again and again. He showed up on rehab reality shows. People watched him cry, fight, and fall apart. He said he wanted to stop. He said he was trying, but he kept going back to substances. He was arrested more than once. The pain inside him didn't go away. He posted strange things online. Fans saw them and worried. Then, in June 2024, he died. He was 49. His body gave up. His fans were sad, but not shocked. Some say they knew it was coming. Others hoped he would get better. But the fight had gone on too long. Binzer's story is more than just another rock and roll death. It's a cry for help that never really got answered. He wanted to be better. He showed the world his pain, but even that wasn't enough. His life was a warning. Substances don't care how much you want to live. They just take. 11. Jason Molina, Ohio, Magnolia Electric Co. Jason Molina was more than just a musician. He poured every bit of his heart into his music. People could feel his pain in every song, but that pain didn't just live in his lyrics, it lived in his life. From the outside, he seemed like a quiet man with a guitar. On the inside, he was fighting a storm that no one could see. That storm was alcohol. It followed him everywhere. At first, it was something he could hide, but alcohol doesn't stay hidden forever. Jason started drinking more and more. His body started to break down. He got sick, often disappearing from the stage and the spotlight. Fans didn't know where he went, but the truth was he was slipping deeper into addiction. It ate away at him slowly. He tried to fight it, but the damage was too deep. His liver couldn't keep up. His organs began to fail. In March 2013, at just 39, Jason Molina died from the very thing he couldn't shake off. People still play his music. They say he was a genius. But behind that genius was a man screaming for help. The songs he left behind are heavy with sadness and truth. His story is not just about music. It's about how addiction hides behind talent. It waits in the dark, destroying slowly. How many artists do we lose this way? How many warning signs do we miss? Jason's death wasn't quick. It wasn't loud. It was quiet, slow, and full of chances to save him that were missed. The world didn't just lose a singer. It lost someone who still had so much more to give, and that should never be forgotten. 12. Tom Petty. Tom Petty had one of the most loved voices in rock history. His songs were played everywhere, from radios to huge stadiums. But even someone as famous as Tom couldn't escape pain. While many thought he had it all, he was hiding something deep and dangerous. It wasn't just the pressure of fame, it was pain, both in his heart and in his body. And that pain led him down a dark path. He started taking pills, strong ones. Painkillers became part of his life. Most people didn't know. He didn't talk about it much. Even his friends stayed quiet. They saw something was wrong, but thought speaking up wouldn't help. That silence was deadly. It gave the substances more time to destroy him. Over the years, the pills became more powerful. Tom Petty died in 2017. The cause? A deadly mix of painkillers and other strong substances. Some say it was an accident, but was it really just bad luck? Or was it years of untreated pain and hidden addiction finally winning? He was 66. He should have had more time, but substances don't care about age. They don't care about talent. They steal futures, even from people the whole world admires. His fans mourned, but behind every sad face was a lesson, a warning. Even legends can fall. Even heroes can be lost. Tom Petty's songs still live, but he doesn't. And the silence he left behind is louder than any crowd. 13. Kevin DuBrow, Quiet Riot. Kevin DuBrow had a voice that could shake the walls. As the frontman of Quiet Riot, he helped bring heavy metal to the top. Fans cheered, records sold, and the world knew his name. But behind all the noise was a dangerous silence, a silence filled with illegal things. Kevin lived fast and he lived loud, but substances were always in the room with him, even when no one else was. He didn't hide it well. Friends saw the signs. They watched him burn bright and fade fast. Substances became more than a habit. It became his shadow. Fame made it easy to get. The parties never stopped. The pressure never eased. Every high was followed by a crash, and each crash hit harder than the last. By the time people realized how bad it was already too late. In 2007, Kevin DuBrow was found dead in his Las Vegas home, alone. The cause? An overdose. It was ruled an accident, but it was no surprise. Everyone knew the danger was there, but knowing didn't stop it. The music world lost another voice, another life cut short by substances. Fans cried and tributes poured in. But behind every tear was a simple truth. Illegal substances can be lethal, even those we think are untouchable. His story isn't new, but it hurts every time because it keeps happening. Kevin had talent, charm, and success, but none of that protected him. He sang loud, but in the end, his silence said the most. A silence caused by a line of powder, a silence that still echoes today. 14. Phil Lynott, Thin Lizzy. Phil Lynott was more than just the singer of Thin Lizzy. He was the heartbeat, the voice, the style, and the soul of the band. With his bass guitar in hand and powerful voice, he stood tall on stage. Fans loved his wild energy and deep songs, but behind all that power was a man falling apart. Phil had been using substances and drinking too much for years. The same drive that made him a star also pushed him to dangerous choices. He wanted to keep going, keep shining, but his body couldn't take it. The warning signs were there. He looked tired. He acted different, but no one stopped the ride. Fame was moving too fast, and Phil couldn't slow down. He thought he could handle it all, like many stars do. But the truth was clear. Substances were in control. His friends saw the changes. His family worried, but still, he kept going, show after show, trying to be the rock legend everyone wanted. Then, in early January 1986, the damage was too much. Phil was rushed to the hospital. His body was giving up. Doctors tried to save him, but they couldn't undo years of pain. On January 4th, 1986, at only 36 years old, Phil Lynott died. Just like that, a light went out in the music world. Thin Lizzy lost their leader, fans lost a hero, and the world lost a man who could have given so much more. 15. Paul Gray, Slipknot. Paul Gray was the thunder behind Slipknot's storm. His bass lines made hearts shake and ears ring. He wore a mask on stage, but behind it was a man in pain. Paul struggled with addiction. Even as Slipknot rose to the top, he was falling behind the scenes. Substances took hold of him, and they wouldn't let go. He tried to hide it, but the signs were there. The weight loss, the mood swings, the silence. Paul didn't want to be seen as weak. He wanted to be strong for his fans, his band, and his family. But addiction doesn't care about image. It eats away slowly. He had access to some of the most powerful substances: morphine, fentanyl. These aren't just painkillers. They are very dangerous. And they followed him everywhere he went. He needed help, but by the time he reached out, the damage was done. In May 2010, Paul Gray was found dead in an Iowa hotel room, alone. No band, no fans, just a life ended too soon. The autopsy confirmed what many feared: an overdose. Morphine and fentanyl were in his system. His death hit hard. It showed that even the biggest stars can fall. It reminded everyone that addiction doesn't care about fame or talent. It takes and takes until nothing's left. Slipknot kept going, but the hole Paul left behind never closed. His mask was taken off for the last time. His story is now part of a long list: musicians destroyed by substances. His bass may be silent, but his message is loud. Addiction destroys, and it always takes more than it gives. 16. Mike Starr, Alice in Chains. Mike Starr helped make Alice in Chains sound heavy and deep. His bass lines gave the band a dark power that pulled fans in. He was there at the start, helping the group rise, but Mike had a heavy weight inside. He struggled with substance use for a long time. Even when the lights were on and the crowds were loud, he was hurting. His smile hid the truth. His music was loud, but his pain was louder. He tried to fight it. He went on a TV show to show the world he wanted to get better. On Celebrity Rehab, he opened up. He showed his pain, but the battle was too big. Substances don't let go easily. He had some clean days, but the darkness came back. Friends tried to help. Fans hoped he'd win, but the damage was done. Mike kept slipping. Then one day in March 2011, it ended. He was found dead in a house in Salt Lake City. He was only 44. The cause? A mix of pills, legal ones, prescription substances that people think are safe, but they can be deadly. Mike's death was quiet. No big show, no spotlight, just another star gone too soon. He didn't want to die. He wanted help. He tried. But trying isn't always enough when the substances are stronger. His story is one we've heard before, but we still don't stop it. Mike gave us great music. He gave us his truth. But in the end, the pills took him. 17. The Rev, avenged sevenfold. James Owen Sullivan, known as the Rev, was wild on the drums. He brought life and power to Avenged Sevenfold. He didn't just play, he created. Every beat, every song had his mark. People loved him. He made crowds go crazy. But off stage, things were darker. He smiled in front of fans, but he was struggling inside. Like many stars, he turned to pills and alcohol to feel better. But that mix is dangerous. He wasn't a bad person. He just needed help. He didn't know how to stop. Fame doesn't fix pain. Money doesn't fix your heart. He thought he had it under control, but he didn't. The substances were too strong. He kept using them, even though his body was tired. Friends didn't know how bad it was. Maybe he didn't even know, but it was there, growing, waiting. On December 28, 2009, it caught up to him. He was found dead at home, just 28 years old. The autopsy showed a deadly mix: oxycodone, oxymorphone, diazepam, and alcohol. Too much for anybody to handle. He didn't mean to die, but he did. Another bright light gone. People still talk about the Reverend. His music lives on, but his death is a warning. Pills and drinks are not a fix. They lie, they steal, they eliminate. The Rev should still be here, making music, smiling, living. But instead, we remember a young man who gave too much to a world that took it all. 18. Kristen Pfaff, Whole. Kristen Pfaff made music that people felt. Her bass playing in Whole was powerful, deep, and full of emotion. She wasn't just part of the band, she helped shape their sound. But the rock world is tough, and Kristen was caught in it. Behind the music was a growing fight with addiction. The substances crept into her life slowly, but it grabbed on hard. It pulled her into a place where even her talent couldn't save her. She wanted to stop. She tried. Friends say she had plans to leave, to get clean. She was packing her things. On June 16, 1994, Kristen was found dead in her apartment. The cause was an overdose. She was just 27. Her death came 2 months after Kurt Cobain's. 2 stars lost to the same dark path. Kristen's death hurt the music world. She had so much more to give. She wasn't done. Her bass, her voice, her fire, they were just beginning. But the substance didn't care. It ended it all in one night. Fans cried. Friends broke down. Another young life gone. People talk about rock and roll like it's fun and wild, but behind the lights, it's often full of hurt. Kristen's story is proof. She wanted to live. She had hope. But the substances are strong enough to steal dreams, no matter how bright. Kristen Pfaff didn't die because she was weak. She died because the substance world is a trap, and too many fall in. 19. Tommy Bolin, Deep Purple. Tommy Bolin had magic in his fingers. His guitar playing was bold, new, and wild. With Deep Purple and other bands, he made music that mixed styles no one else dared to try. People called him a genius. He had the look, the sound, the future. But behind the scenes, he had a growing habit: alcohol, more substances. He kept going, kept playing, but the substances were always close. They were there before and after shows. They were part of his world. He was warned. Friends saw the danger. They told him to stop. But fame is loud, and warnings are quiet. Tommy thought he could balance it all. He thought the music would save him. But substances don't care how talented you are. They break the rules. They break the body. On December 4th, 1976, after a show in Miami, he was found dead in his hotel room. The cause? A mix of booze and more. Too much for any young man to handle. He was just 25. His death shocked fans. They had seen his rise. They expected more, but instead of more music, they got silence. Gary Thane, Uriah Heep. Gary Thane brought something powerful to Uriah Heep. His deep, heavy bass made the band's sound unforgettable. In the early 1970s, when he played, you could feel every note in your bones. It wasn't just background noise. His bass lines were bold, sharp, and full of feeling. They gave the music strength and weight. Fans didn't just hear him, they felt him. Gary wasn't just one of the guys on stage. He was a driving force behind the band's best songs and biggest moments. His playing helped shape the group's most exciting years. But while the music grew louder, so did something else. Gary started using harder things. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal. He was still playing, still touring, still doing what he loved. No one could tell what was coming. He didn't seem like someone who would fall apart. But these things are sneaky. They don't rush in, they creep. One little step at a time. First, it grabs your attention. Then, slowly, it takes your strength, your focus, your light. Eventually, it takes control of everything. The signs started showing, even if they weren't obvious at first. Gary began missing concerts. Sometimes he wouldn't show up at all. Other times, he played, but something felt different. His spark was fading. He looked tired, weaker. Fans could feel it. Something wasn't right. He got sick often. He looked pale, like the energy had been drained from him. People around him saw the change, but not everyone knew why. On the outside, he was still Gary Thayne, the talented bass player. But inside, he was falling apart. The substance had its grip on him, and it wasn't letting go. On December 8, 1975, everything came to a stop. Gary Thayne died from an overdose. He was only 27 years old, just 27. His life ended before it should have. One more name added to the long, sad list of young artists who left the world too soon.